The rain had been falling for hours, turning the empty highway into a ribbon of glistening asphalt stretching through the quiet countryside. It was one of those cold Sunday evenings when most families were already home, gathered around dinner tables, while the wind rattled old storefront windows. Governor Angela Brooks welcomed the silence. For the first time in weeks, she had asked her executive protection team to remain several miles behind her vehicle. She wasn't trying to escape responsibility. She simply wanted a few peaceful minutes to herself before returning to another demanding week leading the state. At 46, Angela had become a symbol of perseverance across America. As the state's first black woman governor, she had built her career fighting for equal opportunity, stronger public schools, and safer communities. Before entering politics, she had spent years as a civil rights attorney, believing that justice only had meaning when it protected every citizen equally. Despite her title, she never forgot where she came from, or the people who trusted her to represent them. That evening, she wore a navy blue hoodie, blue jeans, and comfortable sneakers, instead of the tailored suits usually seen during press conferences. Her black SUV blended easily among ordinary vehicles, and that was exactly how she wanted it. She wasn't looking for attention. She simply needed a full tank of gas and a hot cup of coffee. Before continuing toward the Capitol, a weathered gas station appeared through the heavy rain, its old neon lights reflecting across puddles on the cracked concrete. Angela pulled beside a fuel pump, stepped out, and inhaled the cool November air. She smiled quietly as she inserted her personal credit card into the pump. Moments like these reminded her of life before politics, when stopping for gas was just another part of an ordinary day. Inside the station, an elderly clerk arranged shelves, while soft country music played from an old radio. Everything felt peaceful. Then the calm disappeared. The sharp sound of a police siren echoed through the parking lot. A patrol cruiser entered the station quickly, its flashing emergency lights cutting through the darkness. Instead of parking normally, the officer positioned his vehicle directly behind Angela's SUV, leaving almost no room for her to leave. Angela slowly removed her hands from the fuel nozzle and stood where the officer could clearly see her. The driver stepped out with confidence that bordered on aggression. Officer Daniel Carter was a veteran of the small-town police department. His hand rested near his service weapon as he approached. "Step away from the vehicle," he ordered firmly. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Angela calmly complied. "Good evening, officer," she said politely. "Is there a problem? I'll ask the questions." His tone immediately caught the attention of two customers walking toward the convenience store. They slowed their pace, sensing the encounter was becoming unusually tense. "What are you doing in this county?" Carter demanded. "I'm traveling back to the state capital." Angela answered. "I stopped for fuel. License and registration. They're inside the vehicle if you'll allow me to retrieve them." I said, "Don't move." Angela nodded respectfully and kept both hands visible. Years of public service had taught her that remaining calm often prevented difficult situations from becoming worse. She understood the importance of law enforcement and deeply respected officers who performed their duties with professionalism and integrity throughout her career. She had worked alongside countless dedicated police officers who risked their lives every day to protect their communities. She knew most officers served honorably. Unfortunately, she also understood that one poor decision by a single officer could damage the trust that good officers spent years building. Officer Carter looked at Angela with growing suspicion rather than professionalism. Instead of verifying information through dispatch or asking additional questions, he seemed convinced that his first impression was enough. "I don't believe your story," he said. Angela met his eyes calmly. "Officer, everyone deserves to be treated fairly," she replied. "Please verify my identity before making any decisions you'll regret." Rather than listening, Carter interpreted her calm confidence as defiance. Several people now stood beneath the gas station canopy, quietly recording the encounter on their phones. The rain continued falling around them, but nobody walked away. They sensed they were witnessing something important. Angela remained composed, refusing to raise her voice or argue. She believed respect should never depend on race, appearance, or social position. Whether someone wore a business suit, work boots, or a hoodie, every American deserved to be treated with dignity, and every police officer carried the responsibility to seek facts before reaching conclusions. Without conducting any further verification, Officer Carter pointed toward the hood of the SUV. "Turn around," he ordered. "Place your hands on the vehicle." Officer Daniel Carter stepped closer without another word. The rain drummed loudly against the hood of the SUV. As Angela Brooks slowly turned around and placed her hands on the metal surface, she remained completely still, refusing to give the officer any reason to believe she posed a threat. Years spent in courtrooms, legislative hearings, and difficult negotiations had taught her that self-control was often stronger than anger. The officer quickly pulled her arms behind her back. The sharp click of steel handcuffs echoed beneath the gas station canopy. Several witnesses gasped. One young woman standing beside the convenience store instinctively raised her phone higher, making sure the entire encounter was captured on video. A truck driver fueling his semi quietly shook his head, while another customer whispered, "She hasn't done anything." Angela closed her eyes for a brief moment as the cuffs tightened around her wrists. They were secured far tighter than necessary, causing immediate discomfort, but she resisted the urge to complain. Instead, she took a slow breath. "Officer," she said calmly, "these handcuffs are unnecessarily tight. You should have thought about that before acting suspicious," Carter replied without looking at her. Angela knew the statement wasn't supported by facts. She had followed every instruction, answered every question respectfully, and never once raised her voice. Yet assumptions had replaced evidence. The elderly gas station clerk finally stepped outside, concern written across his face. "Officer," he called politely, "I've been watching through the window. She hasn't caused any trouble." Carter raised one hand toward him. "Go back inside, sir. This is official police business." The clerk hesitated before slowly stepping back, but he continued watching through the glass doors. Angela turned her head slightly. "I respect the difficult work officers perform every day," she said in an even voice. "Most serve with honor, integrity, and professionalism. That's why I'm asking you one more time to verify my identity before this situation becomes much bigger than it needs to be." Officer Carter laughed. "Everyone suddenly has an important title when they're in handcuffs." "I'm not asking for special treatment," Angela replied. "I'm asking for the same treatment every American deserves. A fair investigation based on facts instead of assumptions." The words lingered in the air. Several bystanders exchanged quiet looks. One middle-aged veteran wearing a baseball cap nodded almost imperceptibly. Another customer continued recording, making sure every word could be heard clearly. Officer Carter guided Angela toward the patrol cruiser. The heavy rain soaked both of them as he opened the rear door. "Watch your head." Angela carefully entered the back seat. The hard plastic partition separated her from the front of the vehicle. She sat upright. Despite the uncomfortable handcuffs pressing against her wrists, the officer shut the door firmly. Inside the cruiser, everything became quiet, except for the steady rhythm of rain hitting the roof. Angela looked through the rain-covered window at the people standing outside. None of them knew who she was. To them, she was simply another black woman sitting in the back of a police car. That realization weighed heavily on her heart. She wasn't thinking about herself anymore. She thought about thousands of ordinary Americans who found themselves in situations where nobody recognized their name or position. She thought about parents who taught their children to remain calm during police encounters, hoping respect would always be met with respect. She thought about the countless dedicated officers across the nation who worked tirelessly to build trust within their communities, knowing that moments like this could undermine years of honest service. Public confidence in law enforcement was built one interaction at a time. It could also be damaged the same way. Outside, Officer Carter walked around the SUV, shining his flashlight through each window. Everything inside appeared organized and ordinary. He found nothing suggesting criminal activity. His radio suddenly crackled. "Unit 12 status check." Carter reached for the microphone. "Everything's under control. You requesting another unit? Negative." He clipped the radio back onto his shoulder. Returning to the driver's side of the cruiser, he glanced at the registration information displayed on his in-car computer. Instead of carefully reviewing every detail, he focused only on what confirmed his earlier assumptions. Angela spoke through the partition. "Officer Carter," he didn't answer. "My identification is inside the center console. My state credentials are also in my jacket pocket." Still no response. "I'd encourage you to contact State Dispatch before making any further decisions." Officer Carter leaned back in his seat. "I don't need instructions from someone in my custody." Angela remained composed. "Professional policing has never been about pride," she answered quietly. "It's about protecting constitutional rights while seeking the truth. Every officer takes an oath to uphold that responsibility." For the first time, Carter hesitated. His eyes shifted toward the SUV, parked beneath the bright gas station lights. At that exact moment, a secure emergency notification silently activated through the governor's encrypted communication system, automatically alerting the State Executive Protection Unit that the governor's vehicle had stopped unexpectedly and that biometric monitoring indicated a possible detention, prompting nearby state police supervisors to immediately change toward the rural gas station. The quiet highway suddenly came alive with the sound of powerful engines. Cutting through the rain, bright headlights pierced the darkness as several black state police SUVs pulled into the gas station with precision. Their emergency lights reflected across the wet pavement, turning the small station into the center of an unfolding crisis. Customers instinctively stepped back, still holding their phones as they continued recording everything. Officer Daniel Carter climbed out of his patrol car, confusion replacing the confidence he had displayed only minutes earlier. He watched as the lead state police vehicle stopped just feet away. A senior commander stepped out, accompanied by several uniformed troopers who moved with calm professionalism rather than panic. The commander looked directly at the patrol car before asking one simple question. "Where is Governor Angela Brooks?" Those words seemed to freeze time. Every person standing beneath the gas station canopy turned toward Officer Carter. His face lost its color for the first time that night. He realized this was no misunderstanding that could simply be explained away. The commander walked straight to the rear passenger door and opened it carefully. "Governor Brooks," he said respectfully. "Are you all right, ma'am?" Angela looked up with the same calm expression she had maintained throughout the entire encounter. "I'm all right," she answered softly. "But I'd appreciate having these handcuffs removed." A state police sergeant immediately unlocked the cuffs and gently removed them, checking her wrists where the steel had left deep red marks. One of the troopers quietly offered her a dry jacket, while another asked if she needed medical attention. Angela thanked them but declined. She slowly stepped out of the cruiser and stood beneath the gas station lights. Despite everything that had happened, she showed no anger, no desire for revenge, and no interest in humiliating anyone. Officer Carter lowered his head. "Governor, I didn't know." Angela looked at him for several long seconds before speaking. "No, officer," she replied calmly. "You didn't know because you never gave the opportunity to know." Those words carried far more weight than shouting ever could. The state police commander requested Officer Carter's body camera, radio recordings, and incident notes. Everything would be preserved exactly as it happened. No arguments, no excuses. Only facts. The elderly gas station clerk quietly approached one of the troopers. "I watched the whole thing." He said she stayed respectful from beginning to end. Other witnesses stepped forward as well. "So did we. I recorded everything." She never resisted one after another. Complete strangers volunteered to tell the truth. Angela looked around at the people gathered beneath the rain. "This," she said quietly, "is what community looks like." She thanked each witness for speaking honestly, reminding them that accountability depended not only on good officers, but also on ordinary citizens willing to stand up for what was right. Turning toward the state police officers, Angela expressed her appreciation. "I also want to recognize every law enforcement officer who serves with integrity." She said millions of Americans trust police officers every single day. Because most wear the badge with honor, compassion, and professionalism, those officers deserve our respect because they earn it through their actions. Several troopers nodded. They understood that one officer's mistake should never define an entire profession. The badge represented service. Its true purpose was protecting people, not judging them. Angela then faced Officer Carter once more. "This isn't about punishment," she said. "It's about responsibility. Every stop begins with a decision. Every decision should begin with facts, not assumptions. When we forget that trust disappears, the rain slowly began to ease. As television news crews arrived on the scene, reporters started interviewing witnesses, while cameras captured images that would soon appear across the nation. By sunrise, millions of Americans would be discussing what had happened at a small, rural gas station. Not because the person in handcuffs was a governor, but because the incident reminded everyone that justice should never depend on status, race, appearance, or title. True equality means every citizen deserves dignity. Every officer deserves proper training. Every encounter deserves fairness. Before leaving, Angela paused beside her SUV and looked back one final time. "My hope," she said, "is that this becomes more than a headline. I hope it becomes a lesson. We build stronger communities when respect flows both ways, between citizens and those sworn to protect them. Real leadership isn't measured by power. It's measured by character, especially when no one is watching." The convoy quietly departed into the early morning, leaving behind a gas station that would forever be remembered as the place where assumptions collided with truth. Sometimes the most powerful victory isn't proving who you are. It's proving that dignity can survive injustice, compassion can overcome anger, and accountability can strengthen the very institutions we depend upon. If this story made you stop and think, we'd love to hear your perspective. What would you have done if you had witnessed this moment? Do you believe professionalism, respect, and accountability can help strengthen the relationship between law enforcement and the communities they serve? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters. And if you enjoyed this story, let us know what kind of inspiring, justice-centered story you'd like to see next. Your ideas could inspire our next upload.